Hey guys, hello, good morning. This morning, very tired. I don't know why. So, we're gonna rely on some canned coffee here. How are you guys all doing this morning? Let me see. Got some people here in the chat. Welcome. Let's see. Brawl asking, how long is the stream? I don't know how long this will ultimately be. We got some entries to look at here. Yeah. As long as I can handle the chat. Yes. So well, as long as it takes just to get through the stream here. I'm guessing maybe about an hour and a half, maybe something like that. Possibly less. We'll see. However long it takes. Those of you who are unfamiliar, this whole idea of Gunpla critique was something that I wanted to do as something to offer to my Patreon supporters. So it's currently set. I'm trying to remember my levels. Silver Zaku is I have bronze, silver, gold, platinum Zaku as the levels on my Patreon rewards. So it's for silver and above, right? So we've got some entries here that some of those Patreon supporters have sent in. Some are completed works, some are work in progress stuff. So that's what we want to take a look at, things that people have recently finished or things that they're working on, and we'll take a look at that. Honestly, I think it was just the Faz wiped me out. This first half of this week was just really busting my butt to try to get the Faz ready for the stream on Wednesday, and then streaming for Wednesday for like almost 5 hours was, I don't know, maybe it just took a lot out of me, more than I was expecting. But yesterday though, I had a pretty relatively relaxing day though. Yesterday I took most of the day off to go to the movies with my wife because she had a day off from her work. So did a little work later in the afternoon and at night. But yesterday went to the movies with my wife and we watched 1917 and then also Parasite. We had a double feature. So we watched both of those. Both pretty good, I gotta say. I can understand why both of them were nominated for Best Picture of the Year last year, depending on how much weight you want to put in the Academy Awards. But both were very good, yeah. Mm. 1917 was really good. I mean, although kind of relatively typical kind of war movie, but yeah, it was really interesting the way that it was done. I think just the story just focused around like one very small piece of the war. It wasn't about like some major battle or anything. It was just about this one very limited scope. Yeah, but it was very cool. Parasite to me, honestly, like it was really good, but if you watch a lot of those kind of movies, like kind of independent, or no, it wasn't a completely independent movie, but just that kind of movie, like from Korea and Japan, it was relatively familiar. Like if you've seen other movies similar to that, it wouldn't have like stood out as like the best among them. But if you're coming from, whereas I can understand for probably a lot of people in the States who have maybe not seen a lot of that type of movie from this area of the world, seeing that like for the first time would be like, oh wow, it's actually like pretty amazing. But there's definitely other amazing movies that I would recommend. Honestly, it reminded me a lot of 3 Iron. The Korean title is Binjip, but the English title is 3 Iron, like as in the golf club 3 Iron. You guys should check it out if you haven't seen it. It's kind of similar. It reminded me a lot of that. But yes, Parasite was certainly very well done, technically. But as far as just like the general feel and the storyline, reminded me of other similar kind of movies, or just the kind of that genre of movie here in Asia. So let's get into the entries here, shall we? We're gonna take a look through these. We're gonna start off with this one here from Gregg. We're just gonna go in order of how they were submitted. Alright, so let me see. I'm gonna put this into here. Okay. No. Okay, let's not do it like that. Hang on, bear with me for a moment. Let's window capture this for preview. I don't know, why is this strange? Okay, cancel that. For some reason my hang on. My window capture is strange. My window capture option on OBS. I had this experience because I was trying to pull up something earlier this week on a different live stream on the live stream on Monday. I noticed that when I'm trying to open window capture in OBS, it's not showing the options for a bunch of the windows that I have open, so it's kind of odd. To answer the question, Lee, how come Josh doesn't do these anymore? Josh never did these with me. We were doing the different series. We were doing G-Check with Josh. And we just, I don't know, it was just something we just haven't done for a long time. But yeah, so hang on, let me check maybe if it's a problem with my preferences here. Why is window capturing not giving me that option? Let's see. Projector, preview, studio mode. No, I'm not seeing any reason why it would not be there. So, I wonder if we can just do like this. I haven't tried this. I haven't tried doing this before, so I'm not sure how well it's gonna work. But let me see here. Loop. Okay, images. Let's add files here. Let's try this. Oh no, that's not gonna work. There's an option to, in OBS, there's an option to have a image slideshow, but I put in the images and it's got them rotated the wrong way. And let's see if I can have them rotated the correct way. That's annoying. Oh no, okay, not automatic, no. Well, shit. Sorry guys. Yes, let's see. Well, that's annoying. Sorry guys, I should have checked this before. Cause yeah, that's just not gonna work doing that, doing the pictures like that. Alright, so because how we did it last time was I just use a window capture. But why is that not an option now? Okay, so that means I might have to do this a little bit differently. Okay. going to improvise here. We'll do it like this, and we'll just have to do it like this. But I don't want to do that either. Shit. I don't know. Well, we might have to do this the very hard way if it's not going to work. But let me just try this. Any of you guys have a suggestion? Any of you guys who use OBS? Because let me. What is this? Can I do that? No, that's not gonna work. Because when I want to input a source in here for OBS, well, to open a group of pictures, I would just have the pictures open with whatever it's called, preview. And so I could just window capture the preview window, and we can just look at them like that. But when I'm choosing window capture, there's no option to choose the preview window. I can, open each picture individually, but that means I have to open each picture individually. That's also kind of annoying. But at this point, it might have to be display capture. Yeah. I'm not gonna do that. So I guess we'll just have to put in each picture individually, which is gonna be kind of annoying. But at the moment, I'm not seeing any other option for us for now. The slideshow thing seems like it should work, but I don't know why it's automatically rotating the image. That's the problem. It's automatically rotating the image. The images are vertical, and it's rotating them to horizontal, and so that's not going to do us any good. Okay, well, let's see. Yeah. Seems like we may just have no other option for today until I can figure out what the problem is. What's going on, guys? So, okay. We'll just have to do it like this then. As I'm seeing no other option. All right, so shit. Image. This is gonna be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but let's do it like this. And oh no, oh no, oh no, why is it doing that? Even when I'm trying to put in the images individually, it's automatically rotating. Why is it automatically rotating the images? Okay. Oh no. This is so awful. Why is it doing that? Where is... I'm just having to go back in the preferences here again. Why is it... how can I select it to not automatically rotate the images? Dang. So annoying. Source alignment snapping. No, that shouldn't be it. Fucking I don't know. Because there's like no other way. Alright. well, can we... Okay, I have an idea, I think. Can we do this? Let's see. Possibly. Alright, I'm going to try this again. Hang on. Yes. Okay. Adding files. And manual. Okay. So we'll put this in. Oh shit. I was hoping there would be a way that I can just rotate this image manually. Cause see, as you guys can see, the problem is that it's the wrong way. So at least you guys can it's sideways, but at least you guys can see what we're gonna look at here for the first image. But I need to see how I can rotate that. Tools, boxes, transform. Okay, let's try this. It'd be clockwise, right? Aha! Okay. Now we're in business. Thank God. Well, at least that's something. It's not exactly just controlling everything through preview was easier, but at least this is gonna work. Just doing it as a slideshow like this. Alright, so it only took us 15 minutes messing around with that to finally get a look at what we're doing here, but alright, so this is the first kit that we're looking at. Alright, so excuse me, so at least for this episode, image control is going to be a little bit clunky, but just bear with me for the moment, for the time being anyway. So Gregg said in his email that I didn't know you made a video about the seam lines. Of course, until I got done with this one, I did do was turn the seam line in the form into a pena line. Also, some maybe too much dry brushing on the weapons. Okay, so yes, we'll see a look through this. So at least just from the first image here, the colors look fine. The gray and blue. Two-tone blue there. It's a relatively subtle difference there between the two tones. I don't remember if Gregg, if you're watching, I'm not sure if Gregg's in the chat. I haven't seen him there, but if Gregg is airbrushing or using spray cans, I don't remember, but if you're airbrushing, what I would have done for the brighter blue there, or like on the main color of the leg, just add a little bit of white or gray to that to desaturate a little bit, because you can see this, the navy blue color there, which is the darker blue, is like a nice desaturated navy blue. It's not a really bright navy, and then the gray is obviously desaturated entirely. It's gray. It's a warm gray, at least from the look of this photo, but you can tell the color balance of this photo is probably not right either, because it's probably a little bit too yellow than it should be, because I assume that maybe this is just with his phone. Oh, Gregg, you're here. Okay, is this were the pictures taken with your phone? Because my phone does this too. I hate this because I have iPhone and the camera's great, like under the right lighting, or especially outside, but inside over here, like especially when I'm taking photos of kits here, it's always, the color balance always goes too yellow. It's really terribly annoying. So airbrushing. Okay, so anyway, so at least on the note of the colors, Gregg said he was airbrushing. So Gregg, what I would have done was just desaturate the blue a little bit, just to match with the other colors a little bit better, I think. is what maybe I would have done with that. And yeah, he said the photos were taken with his phone. Yeah, so yeah, I understand the color balance with the phones is kind of annoying. But I get it. I get that anyway. So I would have maybe desaturated that blue a little bit, but otherwise the colors, I mean, like the color layout, everything looks cool. That let's see, how do we get to the next photo then? Let's see, not that. We want this one, slideshow, and hotkeys to control the slideshow, but I don't know what the hotkey is. So let's just go automatic. Oh no, manual. No. Automatic. Okay. On the next photo, it should, there we go. Go to the next photo. There's this kind of line along the inside edge of the shield that's kind of in like an orangish color. Is that like just on the edge of the shield, or is that that whole bottom piece of the shield is in that color? But okay, it looks like, yeah, just the edge of the shield maybe is in that orangish color there. And so let's see, this is gonna be annoying now too. Okay, so yeah, guys, bear with me. Want to use manual controls here, so it's just not automatically rotating through those. But the problem is slideshow. Have to use the hotkey for that, and I don't know what the hotkey is for a slideshow. Okay, image slideshow. Next slide. Previous slide. Okay. Does that work now? Image slideshow. Oh, okay. Alright, now it works. Okay, good. I have to use hotkeys and I hadn't set the hotkeys yet, so there anyway. Yeah, so that orange line along the edge of the shield seems a bit out of place because it's not the same color. It's not the same color as any of the other colors on the kit. If it was like the same color as this color on the head, maybe. Or if it was just like a neutral color, like white, I think. Alex, how's it going, buddy? Good morning. Your work got canceled thanks to coronavirus. Well, that's cool. In a way, I guess. So yeah, having that stripe there along the edge, maybe in white, I think maybe it would have been better. Because even if it was matching the same color as the head, it's just kind of an odd placement to have color along there. But if it was white or something, maybe. Just the fact that it's the orange and it's not the same as any other color around on the kit, it looks a little bit odd. But yeah, otherwise I think the colors work. Now you mentioned in your email about the dry brushing on the brush, and I was looking at this just previously, dry brushing on the weapons, and the dry brushing on the rifle I think is right about at that level where it's like just almost too much. I think it still doesn't look bad. I think it still looks fine as it is. It's pretty heavily dry brushed on there. And like maybe up around here at the tip, it's maybe a little bit too much, but at least for like the main body of the weapon, it's still passable, I think, like that. So I think it's not quite over the edge where it's definitely too much. It's gold. Okay, sorry. Gregg mentioned the line there on the shield is gold, not orange. Okay. But yes, anyway. So yeah, the rifle though I think looks okay like that. The bazooka though, the two-tone colors doesn't quite work for me. Having the end parts in a much shinier silver color. I'm not exactly sure what color, but it looks like maybe just like gunmetal for like the main color, and the ends are in like a much brighter silver kind of color. So I'm not sure exactly what color that is. Almost like a, I don't know, iron color or something like it it looks more like the two end parts were more convenient to paint because they're separate parts, and so that's why they're a different color. They don't necessarily look convincing like they were a separate color, like for any realistic reason. Like for example, this center part at the front of the rifle, or at the front of the bazooka, not the very end part, but the middle part, kind of between the front handle and the front part, that part of the bazooka. If that was in like if that was in the second color, I think it would have been better. So that would have required you to do a little bit of masking there, but I think that would have been better for that secondary color rather than the two ends. It looks a little bit odd like that, having the two ends of that just done like that. But as for the seam line you mentioned for the arms, here he said he hadn't seen my video on how to remove this seam line there in the forearms yet, so what he did was just turn that into a panel line. And I would recommend, Greg, if you haven't, I'm sure you're aware of the tool that I use, the Danmo tool that I use for turning panel lines into seam lines. I've used it in a couple different videos. I would recommend getting one of those because it just works a lot better for doing that. With this, it looks like what he did was either use his hobby knife or file to just bevel the edge of that, which is it is a way to turn a panel line into a seam line. That's an easy way to do that. The problem is that usually a panel line is a square. It's a square shape like that, a square channel for a panel line. When you do it by just beveling the edges, it turns it into a V shape, and a V shape, in that case, you should do it really lightly. This one, it's quite wide, deep. I don't know how to describe that. Quite big, V shape there. So it's not quite as convincing as if you were to have done it just very little bit, or if you were doing it with like the Danmo tool that turns it into a square line, a square cut out of the edge. So if you don't have one of those, I would recommend getting one for future use. Otherwise, if you are going to do like this style again, then I would just recommend going as minimal as possible at first, just so that it's an apparent line and you don't have to worry about taking so much out of the part. And also I would recommend just throwing some panel line wash in there. It doesn't look like maybe, and Gregg is here so he can answer for us, but if you use some gray panel line wash in that, or if that's just natural shadow in there. So I'm not sure. But like in a couple areas, it looks like there's no panel line wash in there, in the gray parts. And like here on like the shoulder, the blue shoulder, it doesn't look like there's any panel line wash in there. So just like for the blue parts, I would use black panel line wash just to bring out some of those details a little more on the shoulder there. And like the top of the head, yeah, I'm not sure. Looking at the top of the head, it looks like there's some panel line wash in there. So maybe he did do some panel lining on some areas, but less in other areas. It's natural shadow. Okay, yeah, so yeah, I'd say just going in and doing some panel lining on that. Also panel lining on the inside of these parts. Let me see, where's the close-up? Here we are. For the bazooka armor, bazooka ammo packs there on the shoulder, it looks like what you did, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've done this before as well, so I can recognize this as what it looks like. For the orange in the holes in the bazooka ammo packs, it looks like maybe you just took some orange paint and just dripped it in there with a brush, and then maybe just like cleaned up around the edge with Q-tip or whatever, if you had any excess around the edge. So just fill that in with a little bit of orange paint. Is that correct, Greg? That's I've done that before, and that's what it looks like. That doing it that way works. very easily for small little holes, but because those are really big holes, you have the paint looking like this, where it's not, yeah, okay, you said, yeah, it was just dripped, so, what you end up with is what you can see here, how in the center of the hole, the paint will gather to the edge, and then also pool in the center, so like what you're seeing there, you have the paint filling in the edges of the circle, and then a pool in the center, and then in between there you have the space where the color is not like totally filled in. So what you can do in that case is then just add more paint and keep layering that on until you get a solid color to fill that hole. But you're also just adding in a ton of paint in there, which is it's not really going to look the best. The better way to do that, what I would recommend to you, is to panel line that first. If you're going to do it just by hand brush. The problem with that part, though, and this is something I should try to demonstrate this in a future video, because it's a common issue that I often run into. With that part, you have a seam line through the middle of it, so that hole inside there is not contained. If you drip paint into there, some of the paint is going to leak inside the part because there's a seam line there. So I think I can draw on this to try to illustrate that. Basically, okay, bear with this illustration here. So this is how the two halves of that part go together. And so when you put them together, when you put these together, this space here will not be closed up tightly unless you surely fill that area in with glue. So normally when we're worried about getting rid of the seam lines between the parts, we would worry about the seam line here, because that would be like the top part that we're seeing. This seam line is within that circle, so you're not ever going to see that part of the seam line, so it really doesn't matter about filling it in. But if you want to drip some paint into there, it is going to matter, because if that's not glued together tightly, then the paint is going to leak through into that part, basically. Which I think you can maybe see, that could be maybe what's happening here in like the very bottom circle. You can see how like the edge of that is not perfectly clean. Probably either just he missed that part a little bit with the brush, or what happened was some paint leaked down into the part. So either way, what I would recommend doing is make sure that the part is that it's totally filled with glue in there first, so that later on when you drip the paint in there, or your panel line wash, whatever you put down into there later, it's not leaking onto the inside of the part. And then before you put the paint in, what I would do is just drop some panel line wash in there first, wait for that to dry, clean that up so that you have a nice defined black, ring around there for your panel line wash inside, and then that will basically serve as the outline that then when you go in and you just want to hand brush that in with a little bit of orange paint or something, you can just brush that in, and basically it's like a coloring book or something, where you're coloring within the lines. You're just painting in the circle within the black line that already exists there of panel line wash that you already have inside there, if that makes sense. I know that it's maybe not the easiest thing to explain without visual representation, so maybe I'll have to try to demonstrate that in the future, on a video. But if that makes sense, that's what I would recommend for that. I can recognize that issue because I've seen it, I've done it multiple times before, and there's anyway, better ways around that. Or what you can do, of course, is just get photo etch parts will work really great for this particular thing. There's a ton of just different circle photo etch parts you can get that you can just drop into there and just paint those. That's really easy as well and gives a really good effect. Of course, photo etch parts look really nice. So let me see. Just got sorry, my phone dinged here with the notice that my PG strike is not on the way, but ready to be on the way. So I'll have to order that sent. That's good news. Okay, so yeah, I think, yeah, I can see, some of the issues issues that I'm familiar with, things that I've done in the past, certainly here with the build, but ultimately just the style I like. I like the new color scheme you've gone with for this, although, like I said, I maybe would have adjusted the bright blue a little bit. I like the stripe on the top of the head. And the dry brushing, I think, is not that bad. What I would do for dry brushing is maybe practice a little bit of dry brushing on the suit as well. And the thing about dry brushing, although I'm still very new to dry brushing myself, just what I can tell you just from my experience and just from what I know about dry brushing in general is just that, the lighter you go, the better. Just start as light as possible, and you can always add more and more and more. You can build it up with layers over time. But if you go heavy right from the start, it's very difficult to tune it back. Once you've already got it heavy on there, you basically have to just get rid of the whole thing and start over. So best thing is just go really light. And so what I would do is just maybe go to the suits, just go into like some of the naturally more weathered areas, like the shoulder, the knees, around the feet. Just do really, really light dry brushing on there a little bit. And, maybe just a little bit will be all you want for that, or you can build it up a little bit more and more if you want. Go ahead and finish up some of the panel lining on that. Add some more decals and stuff as well. Some cool markings on that, and you'd be good. Yeah. It's kind of hard to see from the photos, but it looks like the yellow for the camera lens was also just hand dripped with a brush in the same way that we were talking about for the bazooka ammo packs. In which case, basically the same thing would apply. I would suggest for those camera lenses for your weapons like that, the same thing. If you're going to hand brush that, I'd say panel line it first to create an outline, and then you can just paint in the outline. It is better. I know that particular rifle though is kind of hard because the definition of that circle, it's not a very deep defined line there. It's not a very deep defined shape for that, so it's a little bit kind of tricky rifle to get the camera done on that. I understand that one. So all right. Yes. Oops. Yes. Okay. So thank you, Gregg, for submitting that. Let's see the next one here we got from Jonathan. Let me see here. Okay. Let's get these photos downloaded first. Here. Couple critique. Save. And open that. Move that there. Okay. Image slideshow. Let me just add the files in here to a new slideshow. And we can start cooking with gas. And I want that to be manual, please. Okay. And so as you can see, we're looking at a Barbatos here this time. Put that down here. Like that. Okay. Anyway. And let me see what Jonathan said here. Thanks for taking the time to check out my Barbatos. I love the decal work, but I never seem to use enough. What do you think? Next time, hope to have my first Mac kit to share with you. The pilot is nearly finished. Okay. Oh, so yeah, I know he also finished. He also included a photo of a Machine & Krieger pilot that he's working on. That he said he wants to submit his Machine & Krieger build for the next critique. But for now, he said, I love doing decal work, but I never seem to use enough. So he's worried about the number of decals, whether it's enough or not. And okay, I'll go ahead and turn that off for the time being. Sorry about that. I don't think Jonathan is here in the chat. Jonathan, are you here in the chat watching live? If you are, shout out. But yes, using more or less decals, usually comes down to just your own personal opinion. Although that said, using no decals does usually look a little bit bare. I think you can go very minimal, but using no decals at all, I think most of the time doesn't look quite right. I think it's very helpful to at least have a couple on there. Just considering what it is, I don't know. Maybe on certain kits you could get away with no decals, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, it is very. Oh yeah, Jonathan's here. Okay, cool. On the other end of the spectrum, it is definitely possible to have way too many decals. I'm sure you guys have seen the pictures floating around online of like the kits that are just covered in decals. I mean, I'm talking like Verka times 3 decals on there. There's one particular builder here in Korea who's like famous for that, just like coating the kits in decals. It's crazy. I haven't seen any of his work for a while, so maybe he's not doing that anymore, or maybe he's not doing Gunpla at all anymore. I don't know, but for the Barbatos here, my first reaction is that I like the colors. I like the colors for this, how he swapped the chest here. Instead of blue, it has black, so you got the black theme going on there. It looks like the back side of the arms, that blue part is also swapped to black, so you just got rid of the blue on the kit entirely, which I appreciate. So you got rid of kind of the typical Gundam tricolor theme, just changed it up just a little bit, but it as you can see, it makes a big difference. And also the yellow is changed to a much more orange color, but you can see how much of a difference that makes. And it's not really a huge change to the color scheme. It's still mostly white. All the red parts are still red. He just tweaked the yellow a little bit and then changed a couple of blue parts to black. But Jonathan, since you're here, you can answer for us. This was airbrushed or spray can? Yay or nay? And why is why are my hotkeys not working again? Am I gonna this is terrible. Okay, so apparently I have to reset the hotkeys again every time I open a new slideshow. That's fun. Excuse me. Let's take a look through some of the other photos here. So here's the Machining Krieger pilot that he's working on, which I think looks great. Looks really good. It's airbrushed, okay. He's been sharing some photos of this work in progress in our Patreon Discord as well, and I think it's looking very good. So I think that'll look good. Looking forward to seeing the finished results of his Mac K build in the next episode, if that's done, if we're able to look at that. I like the shading, the little 5 o'clock shadow shading there around there. But that's looking good. Sorry, can you guys hear my cats? I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but they're just going ham out there. I don't know what they're doing. Here's a couple, I think there's just a couple of details. I didn't look at these photos beforehand, so I'm not sure what we've got here. Let me just scan through these over here. So maybe just a couple of detail shots and then just some other shots of the kit. So here's a detail of this, the back of the legs here, obviously. What's going on in the chat? But yeah, the painting looks good, and the Pentaline wash just being in gray looks nice, you know, rather than, you know, people often reach for black, but in this case he used a nice gray for the Pentaline wash. It looks good. The darker red for the piping looks good. I think it fits with his color scheme. I think a lot of people tend to want to you know, make those piping parts pop, maybe even being like a bright silver or white or like a bright red or something, but in this like really dark red, it's a nice subtle detail there in the frame. So cat review, I haven't heard if I open the door is closed, that's why I can't hear them. I can hear them very well though. What are you doing? Knock it off. The one cat, like, I don't know what it is. He like dominates. They're both boys and they're both fixed, but he like dominates the other cat, and like meows like that. It's really weird. Seems like a kind of like sexual thing, but it's, I don't know. He's just weird like that. Anyway. That's a close-up shot there of the arm. Yeah, same thing with just the piping there being in that darker red. Let's see. Okay. The decals, I think, at least just from what we've seen of just the close-ups and the images so far, what I can say about the decals is that the color of them looks good. Red and dark gray, at least for these. Looks good. I'll rotate this. Edit. Rotate. There we go. I think you could. I think the level, the amount of decals is good. I think there's a couple places maybe where you could go in and add a couple more, but in some places there's plenty. Like here on the front skirt, for example, there's plenty there already. I wouldn't add any more to that. But like adding like maybe one here onto the thigh or something, adding like maybe one or two there around on the chest part, on the top of the chest, adding maybe one or two decals there. So yeah, there's certain areas. Well, I don't always stick to this, but it's kind of a general rule that I kind of usually think of in my head when I'm doing decals, is to always have like around the same number of decals on each part, and that way I can know not to overdo it. So like generally like on each main big armor panel to have like 2 or 3 decals, like no more no less, between 2 or 3, kind of like that, for example. So that way if I've got like a really large piece that I think like, oh, I've got a lot of open areas, I could put another decal there because it's kind of a wide large area. But if I've already got this kind of rule in my head to kind of stick to like 3 decals per piece maximum, then it kind of helps to give a uniformity to the kit, I think. If you got one piece that has 6 decals on it next to another piece that has 2 decals on it, even though they're, you know, maybe it's a large piece and a small piece, and so it kind of makes sense in that way, I think it just looks nicer. I don't know, in my opinion, it just seems to fit better if there's a kind of uniformity to like the number of decals per piece. And of course you have to think about the arrangement of the decals like realistically too. If you just got a decal just like on some edge of the part where there's like nothing there doesn't seem to be any reason why there's a decal there next to nothing, then it doesn't really make sense. So you have to think about like realistically what's the reason to have some sort of marking on your kit there. Then yeah, pencil. You want to see the? I'll let one of the cats come in here if you guys want to see. The other one won't come even if I call him, but the one will. Pencil. Yo. Because especially these days, he's crazy about jumping. Pencil, eat what? He's crazy about jumping on my lap. Pencil. He's scared because I'm calling him in here, but he knows he's not supposed to come in, so he's like confused, standing in the doorway. Come here. Idua. Pencil. No, now they both came. Come here, Pencil. Idua. He's just like standing in the door looking like, can I go in or not? Come here. I need to pick you up. Now where are you going? He's running away. Yeah. Oof. Here he is. Ow! Come on. Wrap it up with the claws, dude. It's like, what the hell? Dude! Okay, fine. Alright. Anyway. Yeah, these days he's like crazy about wanting to jump on my lap any chance he gets, but yeah, he's just scared to be in here because he knows he's not supposed to be in here. Alright, anyway. So back to the Barbatos. Oh, now this picture is totally upside down. Llama, no, my wife is not Japanese. My wife is Korean. Yes, he has a very cool mustache, indeed. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, the paneling looks good. The decals, a couple of the decals. What I can say about the decals, a couple of them. Oh no, I mean, I think they look okay. Yeah, and it looks like you painted like the clear parts, Jonathan, in like metallic red or something. Maybe, yeah. And it looks alright. I think what maybe would have looked more cool would be to paint the back side of the clear part in metallic red, so you have that like metallic red base underneath the clear, but keeping them clear. But again, it's kind of what, you know, it's up to you, you know. That's it's just subjective thing. I think having them, because leaving them clear on the top would have made them brighter, I think, but then you could get that kind of metallic red look underneath the clear. I think would have looked cool. But it kind of depends on what you're going for, right? Every picture is wrong. I have to just rotate it every time. Oh, OBS, why you do this to me? And I like the red you added on the sword too. You can see the red part of the handle there. Is there another photo that shows the sword more in full? Yes, so we can see more of the sword here in this photo. Let's see. This one here. So yeah, the sword looks good. The red part's added on there. That looks nice. I like that. Yes, he said, yes, clear red over chrome. It's hard to see. Okay, so yeah, he painted, for the power symbol markings there, he painted chrome and then clear red over the top of that. So, yeah. Metallic red, basically, yeah. Let's see. Mark in the chat asks, what do you think could be used as an alternative for the joint and pipe covers that are on the master grade Psycho Zaku? I'd like to add some for my MS06S. A couple things that you could use. One thing that I've seen people use is black plastic gloves. It's like the, you know, like the surgical gloves, like this black, but there's black ones of those. So you don't have to paint it or anything. It's just already black. So you just take one of those and you know, you just have the finger. You just cut off a section of the finger, and you can use that as your joint cover. So you can use that. Those work. Otherwise, just regular plastic bags. There's like a black plastic bag. What you can do is just, you know, cut a section of that, and then it'll just be sealed like on one edge, but to seal the other side, to basically recreate the same thing that you get from Bandai. Essentially, you just need to use a hot iron or something like that just to melt the other side to just seal it, so that you're creating a tube with just a black plastic bag. So there's other ways to do that. Yeah. Or you can use a heat shrink tube if you want. Scott, the Ghost of Xeon, has a video ages ago on his YouTube channel that he did showing how to do that with heat shrink material, as well as another option. Or what you could do also, if you're not worried about if you want to just make the joint, fix the joint and not have any movement anymore, if you want to just fix it in place, you can just recreate that with epoxy putty. Just lay some epoxy putty down over that, and then just use something, just some blunt tool to just create the wrinkles in the fabric, wrinkle looking effect in the fabric, to make it look like the fabric, yeah. But then, of course, obviously, once the epoxy putty cures, everything's going to be locked into place, so you won't have any articulation anymore. But Lebarg, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Sorry, Ruiz said, "Who thumbed down this video?" I Probably someone who was waiting for the first 15 minutes of the video, where I was just messing around trying to get the images to work, trying to get this to go. I don't blame someone for downvoting the video if they were watching from the beginning while I was just fumbling around with that. But anyway, yeah, I think it looks cool. The very bright chrome there for the pistons, I don't know if that's painted or if that's, if you didn't paint that, maybe that's just original because those parts came in chrome. It looks a little bit brighter than that, but it's a little bit bright for me because you have everything, like even the white, I mean, you have white is obviously bright, but then everything else, like the frame is pretty dark, and then like you have the piping is in like that darker red, and so that bright chrome is a little bit too bright for me for the pistons, or like I don't know, maybe just like some gunk wash on that, just so the piston looks like a little bit, it's like it's bright chrome but it's dirty, that kind of thing, maybe. But like looking at that pops out as like a really bright detail there, just among the frame, which doesn't have a whole lot of like really bright popping details on it. But these markings are cool. What's this marking here on the shoulder? Wasn't that like the Tewaz? I don't even remember. Right? Tewaz or something? What was that? Anyway, what's that marking there on the shoulder? It's a bit odd to have two like different main markings on there, but if they go together, I don't remember the story well enough to remember that. Maybe, you know, if that makes sense for the Barbatos to have that marking on there, story-wise, like canonically, if you can justify those two markings on there. I don't remember, but if so, then fine. I think like just visually, just not considering the canon of the story at all, visually I think it looks fine, but just having the Tekkaden logo there, and then also this other like that dash marking there on the top, I'm not sure if those canonically go together or not, but anyway, yeah, I think it looks cool. Definitely the painting's good, the colors are good. Yeah, not much I would really change about that. So let's look at the, yes, I cut the decal in half just for this. Yeah. I figured there was more to that decal. I thought it was like the whole different thing there, but yeah, it works. It's fine. All right, let's see here. Where's the next one? From Jake. Let's see. Okay. Can I just download these? Or, hang on. Let me do this. Just because Jake sent me a link to the photos on Imgur. I'm just going to pull the photos off of there first so that we can open them in a slideshow in OBS a little bit easier. Considering OBS, strangely, is not giving me any option for window capturing anymore in the way that I want to, as far as I can tell. Alright, let's get these photos in here then. And this one. This one. Come on. There we go. And change that to manual. Okay. Okay. Here we are. Okay. So Jake has his Shargeese. This is RG kit, RG Tallgeese, done as a Shar's custom, obviously, as you can see here. Pretty basic color swap. My only mod was the beam axes, which are kit bashed with the Tallgeese sabers. 2 shades of red are actually the same color, but primed with pink and gray. Oh, so that's good that he did that. I can use that as a good demonstration here for you guys. I was surprised at the difference it made. Just a light silver dry brush for weathering, Mr. Color, Shar's red, and Russet, Gaia gunmetal, and Mr. Color midnight blue for the colors, if I recall. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, a couple things that I'm glad that he used here so that I can show this as a visual example for you guys. Number one, the fact that he used Mr. Color Midnight Blue for these parts, and I'll point those parts out for you guys here. If we take a look at the feet there, which look like they're in black, right? Let's see if there's another photo here. I think I have to reset this again. The hotkeys. Thank you, OBS. Will you just save that permanently or what? No! Damn it. Okay. Alright. Let's look through the other photos where you can see that a little bit better, because there's not a lot of that on here. It looks like maybe like just the feet, maybe a couple other things, but yeah, the feet. If I'm understanding correctly, those are the parts that he used in Midnight Blue, and what I want to demonstrate to you guys is that Midnight Blue, if you guys are airbrushing, the Mr. Color Midnight Blue is a really good substitute for black, because it's very dark navy blue that it almost looks black. And a lot of times if you use pure black, it's too dark. And so it's usually when you want to paint a kit black, it's better to use something that's almost black without being pure black. It just looks better. So Midnight Blue is a really good option for that. Yeah, there's other just like really dark gray colors as well, but Midnight Blue is really good for that, yeah. So that's good. And then also he said that the colors for the two-tone was actually the same color, but one with a gray primer and one with a pink primer. So yeah, you can really see a big difference there. So you can see how much the primer makes a difference between the colors, at least as far as I can tell. Now he did say, 'cause I don't think Jake, are you there in the chat? I don't think Jake is with us in the chat live at the moment. But he said that, let's see, the 2 shades of red are actually the same color with the pink and gray primer. But then later he said that he used Mr. Color Shar's red and also Russet. So he used 2 different colors of red there. So I'm a little bit confused. Maybe I'm not seeing it very clearly in the photos here. Because I'm not sure if we look closely. So it looks like there's just the 2 tones of red, but I mean, I know the difference in primer will be a difference, make a big difference in the color, but that's a pretty, even more than I would expect, a big difference between the color, between the darker red like for the main body and the skirts, and then the main red for the armor. So I'm not sure if that's what he's talking about, or if he's talking about if there's 2 tones between the colors on the lighter red, and it's kind of hard to tell from the photos. I think that's what it was. I think it was the darker red. Oh, what is it? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember offhand how dark Russet is, but anyway. And it's hard to tell from the photos. Because what I mean is, if you guys know, like the RG kits, typically like you'll have white, and like all the parts that are white is actually made by 2 or 3 different tones of white. And so what I think, what's possible, what is he's doing with this is that all of those parts that are in like the lighter red are actually 2 different tones of light red. But it's really hard to tell, so I'm not sure. What is that? Yeah. But anyway, the point is, well, yeah, because see, maybe you can see there on the feet. Let's see, is there another better image of the feet? Yeah, like here, for example, at the bottom of the lower leg, you can see how like the main calf part is in that main red color, and then the very bottom edge of that is in a little bit different color. I think that's where it is, where he's got the 2-tone color. And then like the darker red for like the skirt part is in a different color. So that's what it looks like, yeah. So you can see like for like the main part of the calf, that's in with just pink primer, and then maybe for the bottom edge of that where it's a little bit darker, that has gray primer under it, so that's why that's in a different color. And then like that side skirt part of armor that's like hanging down, that's in a completely, that would be in maybe russet color, or it's swapped. How dark is russet? I don't remember. Anyway, but the point is, yes, you can create different color tones by just using different color primer. Using the same color over the top of the primer, but it'll look different depending on what primer you've got underneath. So, very good example of that in use we can see here. So that looks good. Yeah, the dry brushing, like we were talking about earlier, taking a look at Gregg's kit, I was just suggesting just doing some very light dry brushing on that. This is a good example of that too. Very light, very minimal dry brushing. So this is like kind of where you want to start for like the starting point of your dry brushing. Just keeping it really minimal. And you can see, maybe from which photograph, maybe this is the best photograph to see here, what he did for modifying the beam axes to plug in there to the shield in place of the beam sabers of the tall geese. So there, it's a pretty cool mod. I think the way that they're sticking out the top, you know, I can see how that some people might not like that. It doesn't really bother me. It looks fine for me. I don't really care about that in a negative way. I mean, it doesn't really bother the look of the suit for me, at least for my opinion. I think if they're pointed down, maybe it would look better if they're pointed down, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't really mind it that way. Yeah, so just because we're kind of used to seeing the beam axes pointed down, like when they're stored on like the Sazabi or the Shinanju, right, like that. But seeing them pointed up is unique, and so I like it like that. I probably, if I would have done this, I probably would have had them pointed down, but pointed up's okay too. And just anyway, my point is that them sticking out of the shield doesn't bother me. I think it looks pretty cool, so that was handled pretty well. And yeah, the colors are really nice for this. I like that. The dry brushing, again, is pretty minimal. I like that. I think it's also a good example of a good amount of decals as well. I think the decal work also looks pretty good. You can see there's a good amount of decals on there, but it's not overly done. There's decals where it looks like there should be decals, you know, just on certain areas. And then you have other areas where maybe didn't really particularly need any. So you just got a few here and there. It's really pretty minimal in terms of decals. There's not a lot on there. But I think it works pretty well, so it looks good. Let me just take a look through some more of these photos here. Yeah, not a whole lot much more else I can say about this because it's very good. What do you guys think there watching live? I like the green for the eyes as well. It makes a nice little touch there of just something other than red, because I mean, for the whole thing you pretty much just got red and neutral grays. But just the one thing to break that up is just a little bit of green for the eyes. It's a nice little touch in there. Otherwise, yeah, not a whole lot much else I can say about the Shargies here. It's very cool. Indeed, and I like that the red for the top of the head also looks like that's in a different color as well, because just as a point, like for just the tall geese, you know, that part on the head is just naturally red. So I'm glad that he kept that in red, and it looks like that's in a different red from the rest of the suit as well. If that part on the top of the head would have been the same red as what's used on the suit, I think it would have been like a little bit boring. But the fact that it's in the different red, it helps like for that to be like a standout part, because like on the original tall geese, that's like a very, it's a very standout accent point to have this big bright red part on the top of the head. And so I like that it still pops out a little bit amongst all the other red we have for the suit, but then you have this little bit different color of red there just for the top of the head, how that pokes out. So that's nice. If that would have been just the same as everywhere else, it kind of would have just blended into the whole thing, but because it's in a different color, it does pop out a little bit there, so that looks cool. Yeah, very cool. All right, let's move on to the next one. Thank you, Jake. Very cool. I think we've got one more here from Brian, Bro Builder. I know Brian's in the chat there. Brian's been hanging out. Thank you, Brian. We're hanging out for a while here in the chats. And he submitted this. Let's see. What was that? I know I've seen this build from Brian before. Okay, let me just get these photos ready so that we can all look at them together. I'm just like scanning through the photos here. I know I've seen this work from Brian before, but I was just trying to remember if we've taken a look at this. Customize. So anyway, what we're going to be looking at here from Brian is a Marasai that he snapped in 2018 on livestream, customized to fully paint during the Char month, hence a couple errors on the surface. So yeah, he said there was a couple painting errors because he was in a hurry to get it finished for Char month. And there's some work in progress photos here we'll take a look at as well. So let's just go through these. And Brian, since you're watching in the chat, I'll just say that. Oops. Let's see. Hang on. Just do this here. I'll just say that I'm glad you didn't submit work in progress on the resin kit that you're working on, Brian, because I have no idea about that. So I would have had a much less frame of reference for that. Whereas, obviously, a Marasai I'm a lot more familiar with talking about. But would like to see your work on that resin kit later on. So hang on, I'm just getting the photos ready here for you guys. And let me open these up. Let's see. Wait, in there. Okay, then in here. Open a slideshow. Manual. Add the files. So we got like half work in progress photos and half finished photos, so we can take a look at some of a good mix of those. Slideshow. Next and next. Okay. All right. Now we're all set up here. Let's get this resized. This image is a little bit large to fit on our screen here. There we go. There we go. Alright, so we'll take a look. Let's look at a finished photo first, and then we'll go back and look at some of the works in progress images there. Why is it just cycling through these? Where's the finished photos? Come on. What's the deal? Okay, give me a moment. What's the problem here? Interesting. Okay. Let's try this again. I'm cycling through the photos and it just kept going through the work in progress photos, even though I know the finished photos were added to that. Why it didn't show them? Why is it doing this? OBS. Boy, you about to get deleted today. So for some reason, I might have to open this as a separate slideshow, because this slideshow is apparently only wanting to show us the finished, the work in progress photos, and it's not cycling through the finished photos at all. So let's just open a separate slideshow and we'll try this instead. Stupid ass thing. Alright. Let's resize this. So this one was something that Brian did for Char month, so it'll be another Char custom color unit thing that we're looking at here. So, alright, as you can see, yeah, we got the Char's custom Marasai we're looking at here, and you can see there's some modifications to this, so we'll just take a look here briefly just at the finished product, and we'll go back and look through the modifications that he made in some of the works in progress. The shading looks very nice. I like the colors. It's very dramatic shading for this, so it's the kind of thing Brian's in the chat and he can tell us, but I'm sure this is something he was doing very intentionally for this really dramatic shading style for this. The pink is so light pink though. I kind of wish that the lighter pink would... Oh no. OBS. I have to set the hotkeys again. Wait, they're set. Why is it not working? Oh no. Come on, dude. Oh my god. OBS. How could you do this to me? So annoying. What is the problem? There's 4 photos in the slideshow. The hotkeys are set. Okay, let's just set this to automatic and see if it'll work. If it'll go through the photos. Are you going to automatically go through? You're set to automatic rotation. Okay, there we go. So what's your deal now? What's your excuse? Now be set to manual. And the image slideshow hotkeys are also set. So you have no excuse not to work when I press the button. Damn it. Okay. That's how it's gonna be, huh? Damn. The problem with the automatically rotating the images is that, or the automatically cycling through the images, is that some of them are sideways and some of them are not. I made this. Brian said he made the salmon color specifically stark. Okay, so he wanted a really high contrast between the dark and the light pink, the dark red and light pink. Fair enough. I wouldn't have gone that contrasty with it. The light, I would have gone with the little bit darker pink or just kind of a regular red color for the really dark red on there. But he was going for a high contrast with that. Let's just... Why are these finished images specifically being a pain in the ass? Let's just do this. Okay. Why did I wake up today? Oh no. OBS is gonna make me cry. Okay. Here we can see just a more full body shot of that. So yeah. We'll take, yeah, like I said, we'll take a look at the works in progress photos here in a second, just on like the colors here. Also, the decals I would have done differently. Having like these main decals. I also kind of have a sort of rule for myself as well as far as like the main markings. For my kits, for like how he's got the Neo Xeon marking down there and the Anaheim Electronics marking there. I like to limit it to, like, again, it's like 2 or 3 places to put like the main markings, but having the main markings here on the shield and then one on one skirt and then one on the other skirt like that, and then these, I know these on the knee are not faction markings or anything like that, but just having just the very large decals is a bit too spread out for me for what I typically like to do for mine. And I think like generally it's kind of okay. I think it's just here on the front skirts that's not really jiving with me. Basically having the 2 markings there, the Neo Xeon marking and the Anaheim Electronics markings, logos there on the front skirts. Just how they're 2 big markings and like kind of set to be sort of symmetrical there, but and also just because the Neo Xeon marking is at an angle. I think that's the one that's kind of throwing me off. I think maybe what I would have done with that is just stick that Neo Xeon marking over on the shield above the Neo Xeon text there. There's that oh well, you do have one there below that. Okay, so never mind. Maybe on the other shield. Let me see, is there another picture where we can see the pauldron better? Ah, well, let me just open this as well then. Let me see. Show you guys the picture of the back as well. So I think ultimately maybe I just would have not gone with that Neo Xeon marking on the front skirt there. Wait, but let me see. I'll open the image of the back side as well, so you guys can see that. And no. Rotate. Here we go. Size you down. Here you go. On the back, so you can see on the back he's got a couple more, 1, 2, 3 more Neo Xeon logos there on the backpack here, and then on the back of the arm as well, and then on the back of the leg down there as well. So there's certainly plenty of Neo Xeon markings on there for me. I definitely wouldn't have used quite so many of those. Around here on the back though, they kind of look, they blend in a little bit better because of the way that they're spread out. But still a few too many for me. And it's just especially the one on the front skirt. If we go back to that, the one on the front skirt there, just being the fact that it's at an angle. I think that one maybe is the one that tipped the scale for me, especially. The ones on the back can forgive a little bit easier just because they're also on the back and you're just not going to see them as much typically looking at the back side of the suit. But they're also, the way they're placed kind of on like different areas so that you're not seeing them all at once. In this photo we can see them all at once, but you guys know what I mean. They're not like all on the same surface, like on the same thing. They're a little bit more kind of spread out in that way. So but yeah, again, when it comes to decals, it's very subjective, you know, kind of to whatever works for you. But I'm gonna say that for me, I like to keep it pretty minimal, and for like the main like markings, like big markings like that. And I prefer to, like, if you wanted to, for example, this space here on the lower leg, so if you wanted to fill that space with some more decals, unfortunately I just sent it off yesterday. I can't show you guys my Char's Gyaradoga. I did that. But I have a photo I can bring up, for example, if I plug in my drive here, to give me a minute, just to show you guys for an example, because I did that. There was a big space on my Char's Gyaradoga leg where I wanted to fill with decal, but rather than a big marking decal, I just filled it with generic markings. So if you give me a moment, I'll show you for an example. Let me just open this up to find the photo files to go through here just a moment. Here, and which photo shows the leg? Must be one of these. Took a bunch of photos of the kit before I sent it off yesterday. Let's just open this one, for example. You guys, I mean, I posted the video, so if you guys have seen the video, then you've seen this already, but just for an example of how I would typically solve this issue of wanting to fill that space. So you can see down here, like on the leg above that thruster, those decals there, that's just made up of a couple of decals put together, of just like generic caution marking decals, and then on the side of the leg as well. So I wanted to have some kind of like marking above that thruster bell there, and so just use two large like caution marking decals like stuck side by side, and then up a little bit on like the middle of the side of the leg I just used, that's just also two different markings just stuck together. So yeah, I just again, it's subjective. This is how I like to do it when I want to fill a space with decals, but I don't necessarily want to add more of like the large marking decals. It's one way to do it, or you can use the large marking decals like that if you want. So, okay, let's look at the work in progress images then, because Brian is good at taking work in progress images, where a lot of us oftentimes forget to do that. So it's cool to see what he did, so that here you can see for the upper arm part, basically what he did was just make it larger, it looks like. So you can see it's just a little bit taller up there at the top. It doesn't look like he made it any wider necessarily. Maybe Brian can answer that to be precise, but it doesn't look like he made it any wider, just made it a little bit taller there. But you know, obviously preserve the same detail there on the front. And then also these side skirt parts, just added some plot plate here to the side and then shaped it down to make the side skirts also wider, bulkier. That looks like maybe like a 2mm on each side, probably something like that. 2 or 3 millimeters added to each side. Chris asking how, and thank you for calling me Zachary. and spelling it correctly, which is, I'm actually amazed to see that you spelled Zachary correctly for my name, because there's a few different ways to spell that. But how do you submit images for critique? It's a Patreon thing, so it's for Patreon. It's a Patreon supporter tiers thing. If you check my Patreon page there, it's there. I think Silver Zaku is the level, Silver Zaku and above, for these. For the time being, I'm considering changing it though, honestly, but for the time being, that's how it's set up. Yes, growing up, my best friend was also named Zach, but we spelled our names in different ways. So mine is Zachary, his was Zakkery. A little bit different. Anyway. And then actually in our class there was a third Zach as well, who spelled it the same way as me. We went to a school, like my elementary school was a pretty small elementary school where there's one class per grade, like that. And in my class there was 3 Zachs. So it was pretty interesting. Alright. And then you got rid of the spikes. I'm always a fan of that. The spikes, especially in the Marasai, are very long, pointy, so I'm sure I've done this at least on my Psycho Zaku, and I feel like I've done another kit too where I got rid of the spikes on a Zaku's shoulder, but I don't remember offhand. Anyway, yes, I like that. Just changing those into nubs there. And also bulking out the legs here a little bit, adding some bulk and reshaping the front of the legs. The Marasai's front of the legs, I actually have it right here. I don't think have that squared off detail. Okay, yeah. Let me just, considering I just built this the other day. Yes, the Marasai's legs aren't square, they're just rounded. Well, you guys aren't really going to be able to see it all that well because of the light, but anyway, fuck it. Anyway, they're rounded, and he made them slightly squared off there, it looks like. So just added a bunch of putty on there, and then just filed that to make a squared edge along there. So that's cool. And then also the knee obviously bulked that up a lot in this much bigger, blockier knee than what's on here is now just kind of this small little wimpy thing there for the knee. Anyway. So let's see. Also, so here is a large. Let me rotate this for you, so you can see some of the modifications. That also bulked out the chest a little bit. Maybe added a little bit, bulked out width-wise, and then depth. You can see added some depth along the bottom of the chest, or at least onto the front. Is that onto the whole bottom of the chest parts, or just on the front of there, Brian? Just extend it out to the front, or the whole thing? Anyway, also bulked out the chest a little bit there. And then it looks like also extended the lip of this part here on the lower leg. The lower leg there, on the inside of the lower leg, around above the thruster bell there, he added a new thruster bell there for that. Looks like just a Bandai HD Builders parts, probably thruster bell part for that. So just changed that and then extended the lip around that a little bit to be on there. Now, Chris in the chat is mentioning about the Xeon insignia, the option part here. This is something I was going to mention about. As personally, it doesn't really work too much for me, just because it like just barely fits there on the side of the shoulder. Now, Brian, maybe you can answer this. Now that I'm thinking about this, maybe you can answer this for me. Is the reason you made, if we go back in the images, you made the shoulder armor a little bit taller. Is the reason you made that bigger was that so that you could fit that Xeon marking onto the shoulder? Was that why you made the shoulder armor larger, so that would fit onto there? I'm wondering if that's the reason. Because even still, if that was the reason I think it still just barely fits on there. And for me, I've talked about this other times before when talking about decals. How if you're using like a large marking decal like that, to not put it on there if it like just barely fits within the space. I was doing that, if you guys saw my work in progress on the G3. Like I put the G3 marking like on the shoulder and it was like just barely fit on the part. And so I decided to just scratch it and use a smaller one because I didn't want to do that. I feel like the same kind of thing with that. Although I think it looks much better on the finished kit than on the work in progress videos because it's less apparent. You have that really dark look, and then just the gold does look nice having that there in gold. But I think in that case, just because you have that really nice marking there and it looks nice in gold, and then having the same marking down below, like kind of off center, you have the one up above is like this, and then the one down below is on a different angle like that. Is I think also part of the reason why the marking on the skirt doesn't really work for me, because you have the same logo there in gold, it looks nice, and then you have another one down here that looks stuck on in kind of an odd way. But yeah, so that, which one is this here? This one? Yeah, there. Now seeing on the work in progress, it, let's see. I didn't actually make it any larger. Oh, just deeper. Oh, okay. Okay. So Brian said to the shoulder armor, it's just a kind of not trick photography, but so he said the shoulder armor, he didn't make it larger, it's just deeper. So it's just based, it just looks larger. I know it's sideways, but this one looks larger because it's just what we're seeing is depth of field there. It's just deeper. Anyway, okay, so it's not actually taller. But yes. So anyway, so he said that fit on there just as it is, but yeah, kind of like just barely fits on there. Those insignia markings from Bandai, I think it's so hard to use those in a way that they look good, because it's pretty much like just a 3D version of a decal, and I think decals generally just look better for that use. The point of using that is you want to add the marking onto there, right? So if you had the choice to add that marking on using a decal or using that option part, then I think a decal is just going to look better for most of the time. But adding that option part onto there is really only works for something like this when you want to make it like for something for an ace. Or like, for example, Bandai had those P Bandai kits of like the Rambo Rolls. Was it the Rambo? What did they have? They had a Rambo Rolls, Zaku 2 or something. Anyway, and they had like the Dozels, Dom kit. Those P Bandai kits that had like all the intricate like gold markings around on them and stuff, right? So having a like a 3D insignia shape on a kit like that, I think works because it's meant to be like decorative. But on like most kits, like most builds, you're not building the kit to look as like a decorative mobile suit. You're building it to look like it's like a machine of war. And if it's like a machine of war, you have to imagine they probably wouldn't put like some decorative 3D logo on it. They'll just stick the decal, or like realistically it would be sprayed on there, painted on there, using a stencil or whatever. But they wouldn't put something decorative, as in like an actual 3D molded big metal thing, because like realistically it's a huge big molded piece of metal they're sticking onto the mobile suit, so it just looks kind of odd that it would be normally used for just any regular old mobile suit, unless it was for like a particular like ace pilot like this, something like that. So in this case I think it works, and because it's in gold, it also looks nice on there as well. But generally I think it's hard to use those on kits and make it look good. Most of the time when I see those in use on kits, I'm not into it. But Yeah, and the other problem with that is that those parts from Bandai are quite large as well, so it's kind of hard to get them to fit on a lot of places except for like on a shield, and usually that's about the only place that they'll fit anywhere. Unless you're using it on something like a mega size or something, and then you have like a mega size Zaku. It's all curved surfaces, and you're gonna stick a flat. There's nowhere to stick a flat piece onto it except for like maybe on the front skirt. But you still have to file it down because it's still slightly curved. So yeah, I think it just barely fits on there, so I probably wouldn't have used it. On the finished kit, and like specifically in this photography when it's dark and you can kind of like barely see the edges of it, you're just seeing like this nice gold outline. It looks nice in this photo, but I probably would have stuck that onto the side of the shield in place of these decals, the white decals there on the shield. Maybe sticking that just sticking instead of on the shoulder there onto the shield instead of those decals there. I think probably what I would have done with that if you wanted to use that particular part. Let's see, Brian said, I did a poll during the build live stream and the result was to add as many decals as I could without losing taste. Okay, so yeah, Brian was working on this with some live streaming and getting some feedback from people during the live stream as well, so it's worth taking that into account as well. But anyway, still, a cool idea, and I especially like the work that you've done modifying the backpack. This is probably my favorite point about this build, just the tanks and stuff and these other builder parts added onto the side of the backpack and everything. It's probably my favorite part of the build, the modifications to that. I like that. And I like the modifications to the shoulders and the chest, bulking those out, getting rid of the spikes, just some modifications to that. I thought you had a work in progress photo of the shield as well, wasn't there? Why am I not seeing that? Did I not go far enough into the work in progress photos? Here's a work in progress photo of the backpack, so you can see the different parts that went into just kind of kit bashing everything together to make the backpack like that. So yes, I like that. And there was one, yes, here of the shield as well. So he just chopped off the top of the shield and added the same details. So he's like on the original kit has those two bars, the detail there on the shield, but he just had to he chopped off that part and just had to recreate them with a little bit of plot plate there. So I like the shortened shield on that, looks pretty cool. And on the finished kit, how it's just folded in this way, yeah, it's fine. Simple little modification to that. So it's a really good example of just a few simple modifications here and there, just adjusting the sizes of a few parts of the build basically. The backpack obviously has a lot more modification going on with it, but for the main body of the mobile suit, he's just doing just a handful of just size adjustments, basically modifications to it, and it works pretty well. On the finished kit, like if you're looking on this, and if you're not really familiar with this particular kit, they're not modifications that really stand out. If you didn't know any better, you would think that this is how the kit came, just straight out of the box, and he just painted it up. So those kind of modifications I particularly like, when the modifications don't look like modifications to the suit. It looks like this is how it came. So very nice. Thank you for sharing, Brian. And yes, next time, Brian, if you're gonna share images of the resin kit that I know you're working on, please also provide plenty of background about that, because I've seen your work in progress images that you've shared of that so far, and it looks really cool, but I have no idea what it is. So definitely next time, if you're going to share that, give me some background on that one. But alright, that's all we have for today. Let me just check once again, make sure I'm not missing anything just through the emails. I think that's everything. I've got a handful of entries to the notching contest here I need to get through, sending some replies to some people who have sent their entries for that. But other than that, I don't see any more critique submissions, so I think that's all for today. But we'll have another episode again sometime in March, so maybe in about 2 weeks or so. Probably we'll have another episode around that time. So again, if any of you guys missed it, I'll just remind you, because I know I've seen people keep asking about it in the chat about how to submit for a critique. But just once again, just to remind you that it's a Patreon reward. So just check my Patreon page, and it's just part of that. It was just something that I didn't really know what to do to set rewards for Patreon, because I wanted to have some sort of rewards for people who choose to support me on Patreon, other than just saying thank you for their support. But I don't want to limit any of my video content. Everything, all like the videos that I make, I want that all to be available for the public. And as far as I know, I think all the people who do support me on Patreon all agree with that idea. They don't think necessarily want me to make like secret content only for them. I think that works for some people who do that. Like I know Lincoln does that, or like he'll sometimes have videos posted early for the people who are Patreon supporters or not. But I don't necessarily want to do that either, just because of how I upload is just a different from Link. I upload videos, typically try to every day. So anyway, wanted to have something that is available for my Patreon supporters, but also is something that I can share with you guys. So this is kind of one idea that I had for the time being anyway, is just doing these critique videos. So thank you guys, those of you who did submit your work. Appreciate that. And hopefully just taking a look through the works, for those of you guys who are just watching, taking a look at other people's works and just hearing and sharing some of the feedback was good, insightful, just kind of look at, some different works for you, and just kind of seeing what other people are working on, and just kind of hearing my critique of that for what it's worth. Anyway, so that's it for today, guys. Next week, planning on streaming a couple of smaller builds, HG kits, and I should have the Perfect Strike should arrive sometime maybe late next week, in about a week, I suppose. And then so it'll be the week after that we'll work on stream building the Perfect Strike. But next week's gonna be pretty low key, probably, in terms of stuff I'm able to do, because my son is on vacation now from his school, from his kind of preschool. They're on a spring vacation now. Yes, it's weird. The school schedule here in Korea is weird. You have winter vacation, and they go back to school for like a month and a half, and then they have spring vacation. So yes, it's spring vacation here. So my days for the next week or so, I need to spend most of the time with my son, because he's not able to go to his preschool. So I'll just be hanging out with him. Won't have a ton of time to work on stuff, but I'll still do a couple of live streams next week, and I'll have the nights, well, once everyone's asleep, I can work on some stuff in here. But yeah, then the week after that, though, once he's back at school, we'll be going hard on that PG Strike. And I think what we'll end up doing is we'll just break that up into a couple of live streams. I'll maybe do like 2 long live streams. I'll do one doing all the body, and the second live stream for all the weapons and everything. So maybe something like that. So that's what I'm thinking for the time being. But anyway, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.